Good morning and welcome. This is Cheche, the show where opinion counts, live on Citizen TV. I'm your host, Udwa Kamimo. As the August general election draws nearer, the accusations and counter-accusations between the two main political camps escalate. Yesterday alone, the NASA presidential flag-bearer, Raila Odinga, accused his main rival, President Uhuru Kenyatta, of Jubilee of preparing to reject the results of the polls. Jubilee meanwhile says it will not participate in any committee on the procurement and eventual distribution of presidential ballot papers. And early in the week, Jubilee accused the Chief Justice David Maraga of influencing a court ruling that stopped the IBC from printing those ballot papers. The party also claimed that the courts are in bed with NASA. And NASA wants the election delayed. So, today's guests are spending a lot of time on air as August 8th approaches. They are the Jubilee Party Vice Chairman, David Murabe, and Norman Magaya, the Chief Executive of the NASA Secretariat. As always, we have our panelists, Mutegi Njau and Charles Odiambo, both of Royal Media Services. They'll be sharing their opinions with us. So good morning and welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
So look, you know, this issue with the judiciary has been discussed quite a bit this week. But it bears pointing out that the judiciary finds itself between the crosshairs of yourselves, NASA and Jubilee. Do the sentiments of the President and the Deputy President, Mr. Murabe, reflect the sentiments of the party, Jubilee Party as a whole?
There is absolutely no problem in people commenting on post-judgment of an issue. Everybody takes a position. You might find some people are happy with the decision, others are not. That night, we had people celebrating in the street, the NASA people, on the street celebrating. A judgment that, number one, exonerated the president, that he had nothing to do with Al Ghurair. Number two, decided that of the 6 ballots, 5 can continue, except the presidential ballot. And yet it is one contract, one award. So if the procedure in awarding this one was faulty, it means they should all have been dismissed. But you cannot say, you can go on and print for the senator, the women, the MP, but for the president, we have a problem. So that brings us to the real problem. And the real problem is when we find the judiciary contradicting itself in pronouncing itself on such a crucial matter. We get a bit worried and we speak out. It is now no longer legal, it is political. You have just said it in your intro about former Prime Minister Raila saying how Uhuru is planning to reject the result. Nothing could be further from the truth.
Okay, fine. So I'll stop you there because I asked you a specific question.
Yes.
The condemnation from the President and the Deputy President,
it
reflects your party.
It's in order, yes.
Okay. And I'll allow you to respond to the other allegations.
Yes.
Norman, NASA, they're finding itself caught up in the crosshairs of this judiciary dispute to the extent that Jubilee accuses the judiciary of being in bed with NASA.
I think we take a great exception from the unfortunate statements coming from the President. As a well-schooled man, we least expect him to make such sentiments against a very important arm of the state. For once, it is noble that somebody can disagree with the ruling of the court. That is perfectly okay, and we can discuss it, whether in public or in academia. That's perfectly in order. But to attack the person of a judge simply because you disagree with his reasoning and make insinuations that this judge has made this decision based on his associations with the litigants, it's completely wrong. If the President had evidence that that has happened, and he has eminent legal advisors on his side, he's the Attorney General, he has Abdi Kadir as his constitutional advisor, they will have advised him that the only way to complain if there is such justification and there exists is to petition the Judicial Service Commission and not to go lynching a judge in public. Because what the President is doing is to intimidate the judiciary so that if there is any other case that is going to court, and he himself has already pointed out that he is appealing that decision, that his party is appealing that decision. So it's to intimidate and cajole the court to make a decision that is further from the truth, my friend. These guys
are the ones who indicated the court that if you do not find in a certain manner, we are going to demonstrate. Before judgment, we are now talking post-judgment. It is a fact, and he's a lawyer. If you have a relationship with a litigant, you either recluse yourself or you declare your interest. It has been established about the family relationships between Justice Odunga and Jim Orengo. It has also been established that he has dealt with these cases before. So if you have pronounced yourself on a matter, and then you are presented with a similar case, and you have already formed an opinion, the right thing to do is to excuse yourself and disqualify yourself.
Some people are asking the question. Some people are asking this question: if Jubilee has found out that, why don't they make this complaint in court? They are lawyers.
We've already done that.
Why don't they do that in court?
It is part of our appeal.
I'm very sure.
You know, that is
very sure about one thing. If Jubilee had facts about NASA in any way interfering with this case, they would have presented it out there glaring. Today, what I see them do is make accusations. They are shooting in the wild just in case they hit at a dove.
And what's happening here, panelists, is that the accusations are continuing. And so my question to you is, how are we helping the country with all these? Because you are now saying, NASA, that the president is preparing to reject the poll results. On what basis?
Udwak, let me just first clarify one thing. That when this case was filed, it went to Justice Odunga. There is a procedure with which a judge can decide that this case cannot be heard by one judge under Article 165, sub-Article 4. That where it raises novel issues of law or where the case is challenging the constitutionality of an act of parliament, then you can directly the judge, the file be placed before the Chief Justice to empanel a bench of not less than 3 judges. This was not such a case. But the judge, in his own wisdom, decided that he didn't want to hear this case alone. So he sent the file to the Chief Justice. The Chief Justice empaneled a bench of 3. It was not Justice Odunga alone. So you cannot say that Justice Odunga exercised an overbearing influence on his other 2 colleagues. So to attack the decision and independence of a judge without basis, especially coming from a man who was sworn to defend and protect the Constitution, it is the most unfortunate. It just shows how he is unfit to be the president of this country. But having said that, our statement that the president is setting a stage not to accept result is well founded. If you look at his comments in public, one, you know, we are heading into an election that has contestations, that has controversies, and that the only civil way of arbitrating disputes from this process is through the judiciary. If you are undermining the very judiciary, then you are sitting there saying that nobody, or you yourself, will not go to that court, because that court has been making decisions that are unfavorable to you.
That's the
case we filed, most of the grounds court founded against us. It didn't find in our favor. We have not come out to attack the judges. Okay? I just appeal. We have filed a cross appeal. Today, the record is there. Who is the only person who has ever considered defeat in this country when he lost to Kibaki in 2002? Raila, on the other hand, is the only one who has refused to concede defeat leading to post-election violence. Raila is on record, NASA is on record, saying this time they are not going to go to the courts. What are you telling us? Please.
Isn't it flattered?
The context is very important.
We will not talk over each other. Yes. Let us speak so that our viewers can hear what we're saying. Sorry, Motegi, you were making...
I was making the point. In fact, Maraza has made it for me. Isn't it a fact that NASA said if they lose, they will not accept and they will not go to court?
No. Mr. Mutegi, yes. NASA have been very clear on this. Not that I side with them, but they have said, if we lose in a process that is not fair and credible, let's not leave out those 2 words. Yes, okay. In a process that is not fair and credible, we will not go to court. We will not go to court. Yes.
So where will you go?
I don't know.
Context is important. Since you will not go to court, context is important. Since the advent of multipartyism in Kenya, there has only been one election that has been free and fair. And that is the election that people make heavy weight over, that somebody considered defeat. And this is somebody who did not just, he was walloped out of the political contest, not that there was anything for him to contest.
The way he was.
The events of the other elections are well documented. There have been nowhere near free and fair election. And we've said that in this election, and that's why we have been very pragmatic in the pre-election process to ensure that there is a proper platform for the conduct of a free and fair election. If our claims were based on frivolous grounds, if they were merely fictitious, we will not have won any case in court today. Because court is a court of evidence, is a court of facts. If you go there with evidence and facts, you win. If you go there on frivolous claims, you lose. And that's why we have been able to see this loopholes. But we have stated that if what happened in the Supreme Court last time is what the Supreme Court is, in this election, it's a political contest. We intend to finish this contest politically. We will not go to court.
Political means what?
Yes. It's a political contest.
They are throwing Kenyans. And you can see everything that they have been doing is geared towards making sure that the election does not happen. It is a way of forcing. It's like, you know you're going to lose. You know, when we were small kids, and this game used to be called drafts. If I thought you're winning, I would scuttle it so that we said it again. Would work. These guys have not realized. Look at the timelines left, 28 days. And every other day, they're throwing a spanner into the works. So we're actually not even sure that there will be an election. And that is why the president had to restate that come rain, come sunshine, there will be an election. And people, Mutegi, have not thought about this thing. If there is no election on the constitutional date, there is no government. There is no parliament. The president is a lame duck president. There are no mechanisms, transitional mechanisms, even to negotiate the Nusumukata which they want. Because who convenes, like a constitutional conference, to agree how to move forward? People have not thought this through. What is going to happen in this country if there is no election on the due date? Paralysis. And they are hoping, because we are paralyzed, it is possible to negotiate some form of accommodation. And this is a very straightforward game. They have won their cases, 38 of them, before Justice Odunga, Jimorengo. And I told him the other day, when they disqualified Odunga, they went to some other justice, they lost. So there was a pattern where right now, even as we're talking, they're talking about the EVIDs, you know, the identification
So Justice Odunga is not here to defend himself.
We're not
acting as president.
We are talking facts. You can have you know, nowadays we have technology. It shows you every day when they go into Rono House, Jim Orengo's office, it's all there, and it will be in the appeal case. It will be demonstrated. As Norman responds, there has been report that the case that was ruled over recently, the one about Al Ghurair, all the petitions presented by NASA, 4 or 5 of them were thrown out, except for one which was presented by our court about public participation. How do you defend that against the accusations that all the cases you present, or most of them, are just frivolous to dilly-dally?
You know, first of all, it's not fair that you make assertions based on ignorance on a public platform such as this show. And it's very unfortunate from you, brother. I must tell you this.
You can do whatever you want.
I must tell you this for
language, but those are facts.
For one, we've not taken 38 cases to court. We have only litigated around 9 cases. The first case is a 3-judge bench: Justice Mchelule, Justice Cheche, Justice Mativo. There is no Odunga. We won. The second case was the one for ballot papers. That was the only case that was before Justice Odunga. We won. The third case about KPMG was before Justice Cheche. We lost on a technicality. So this issue that
just a minute,
the current case, there is no case on EVDs. We went through a bipartisan approach and passed the Election Laws Amendment Act number 36 of 2016. It was passed by Parliament. On 24th of December, out of nowhere, Jubilee introduced amendments to that act, devoid of the bipartisan approach that we have taken to amend the election laws and introduced a complementary mechanism for identification of voters. It has no clarity, it is not defined, and we've not gone to court to challenge the legality of the complementary mechanism. We've gone to court to say we want this system defined, and it benefits both parties because you are training your agents. What is this complementary system? It says it must be verifiable, it must be accountable, it must be transparent. What is this complementary system and how is it verifiable? These are the clarities we are seeking to import, and that case is not even before Odunga, it is before Mativo. So the business that we are having cases going to one judge is nothing but false. 3, the IBC filed appeal against the decision of last Friday. We have filed a cross appeal. The case management is today at 2:30. Jubilee is having got a paper tiger. They have not filed anything. Case management is today at 2:30. They are not there. So rather than just talking, and lastly, Charles raised the issue that all our claims fell and only Okuru's
reportedly.
Yes. If we go to paragraph 34 to 36 of my affidavit in that case, it dealt with the question of public participation. It was our prayer number 6. So the insinuation that it is Okoti's prayer that carried the day only that day is also not true.
And the others about the relationship between the president and
that's why we have cross appeal. IBC has appealed, we have cross appeal.
Woodward,
yes.
Number 1, we were not party to that case as a party. We were an interested party in the outcome. The issue was between NASA and IBC. The president has pronounced himself that we are not going to get involved and entangled in the sourcing of ballots. And for the first time, I've had the term public participation in procurement, meaning every tender in a public institution, including the judiciary, when they wanted to buy a house for Willy Mutunga, should have involved public participation. That is what you're telling. It's a new terminology, Mutegi. I've never had it before, and it was the basis on which they threw out the case in terms of you cannot proceed with printing of the ballots. And still we're going back to the issue, how can printing of all the other ballots be correct and that the processes were correct except this one item called printing the presidential ballot? This is what they need.
Can you respond to that?
Explain that. I think 1, you must understand the background and the genesis of this case and the question of ballot papers for presidential elections. In 2013, the tender for award of ballot papers still went to the Public Procurement Administrative Review Board. The board made all findings against IBC, but said because there is no time, you can go ahead and tender. And when they tendered, 5 out of the 9 commissioners of the former commission of Isaac Hassan, after the election, told us that there were unaccounted for 2 million extra ballot papers. 5 out of the 9 commissioners. And we have it on record. We know where that meeting took place. We have evidence of that meeting. So when we raise these issues, it is out of nothing. 3, our claim was not that the ballot papers for other positions are okay and the one for the presidential one is okay. And that's why we have cross-appealed that this is a single tender. The court cannot segregate it and say there is one for presidential papers and the other. It's a single tender.
So the ruling was faulty.
That's why we've cross-appealed. But then they are raising issues in public. You are satisfied with our ruling. The novel thing to do is appeal.
It seems to me that there's agreement between both sides that the ruling was faulty. Can we, do we agree on that?
Yes, and that's why we have appealed.
Okay. Yes. The court finds that there is no collusion, evidence of collusion between State House and Algeria.
I've been with the Secretary General of Jubilee on our show. He was on a press conference. Yes, he was on a press conference as he said that the person we said met the president with the name Al-Gurai, they only shared the name with Al-Gurai, but he's not the CEO of the Al-Gurai Publishing Company. When we were on TV on KTN, he said that it is the same person, but he met the president on a different matter, not on the question of ballot papers, as a member of the Dubai Chamber of Commerce. It's on record. These clips are available. It is not hot air that we are blowing.
So let's about
and the fact is, those people came on Chamber of Commerce delegation. They could be members of the Augrea family, but they are not the ones in the printing. In fact, if you Google right now Mutegi, you'll find this one deals with in fact, he deals with steel. He has nothing to do with the printing wing of the Augrea conglomerate. It's a fact.
You're more comfortable with Mutegi?
No.
You are with Charles?
No, this is my buddy. Because sometimes it's important for people to be honest. All the elections that have been held, including the 2013 he's talking about, everybody was quite satisfied with the conduct of the IBC, for MP, for Senator Orengo, for the women reps, and everybody else. MCA. Everything was perfect. And if you are unhappy, you went to court with a petition. The contestation has always been about the top prize, which is the presidency. That is where they have always had this matter of life and death kind of approach and attitude.
But isn't that a factor of our electoral landscape?
But you cannot then say that all the other elections have been conducted properly. They have removed 3 IBCs already. Based on he is talking about 2 million extra ballots. My friend, the turnout in the last election, Mutegi, was on average 80%. So if you had 10 million ballots, they actually counted 8. So these 2 million they talk about, I don't know, it means unless they were saying we had 10 and then 12 were counted, I don't know what they're talking about.
I'd like him to.
We know in 2007, in some of their constituencies, you had 105% turnout. It's there in the record. In this case, can you demonstrate anywhere where there was more than the number of registered voters? They cannot. And you see, when we go into these things, let it be like a friendly match, where people shake hands after the game. And I've said this to all of them, Orengo, Oburu, I said, there should be life. And if your issue is that you have now determined that there is no way you will ever defeat our side of the coalition, come, let's engage. It's about exclusion and people feeling excluded, and we have plans about how to include them.
Moreover, don't try to blindfold everyone with the sweeping statements that make no sense.
Which one?
One, you cannot say that there was overvoting in 2007. What happened in 2007? The returning officers for Tarakaniti is well documented. Even a child who was barely 10 years then knows the story of 2007. You cannot change it to suit your circumstances now. 2, you remember the chairman of IBC Sakazan appearing before the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee and refused to present his report on oath. He said, I will not take oath. Why? Because he didn't believe himself in what he was presenting, because figures were not adding up. This is documented, is on the Hansard. As a former member of parliament, you should know this.
3. He refused to speak on religious ground.
No. Actually, we are religious,
which they have never challenged.
If you are religious, why will you refuse to hold a Quran or a Bible?
Different people have different
exactly.
No. And if I'm being honest with you, Udwak, and I'm a Christian, I will hold the Bible and tell you, I swear by the name of God, what I'm telling you.
And we have different practices. Let us come to the panelists.
All right.
And because remember, the tagline for this conversation is accusations and counter accusations. How are we helping the country?
Exactly.
There's no way. I mean, both of them, they are letting us down. They're letting the country down. They should use proper processes. I was asking him.
Don't ask him. I would like to get to the bottom of
if NASA loses because of fraudulent processes, and they won't go to court, he said they'll go
politically.
What does that mean?
We'll allow him to respond. Charles?
I think there is no goodwill on both sides. One, it is sad for the presidency to cast aspersions on an individual based on a ruling. Go out there publicly and weep emotions. That's a clear indication of lack of goodwill. It is also sad and unfortunate that NASA claims they have documented records on how more than 2 million people voted, and they're not presenting them in public. Instead, they're telling people things that are weeping emotions. If Jubilee has details about Orengo and Odunga being relatives and meeting, why now? Why not before?
The same can be asked of the cases that
we're asking you.
Right.
And we've already asked them about the cases they're taking to court.
Right.
So please respond to Charles's question, and then we'll allow you to explain or describe to us how you intend to settle matters politically and not before the court, and then we'll take a break.
They need to be very sensitive to the timelines. Uhuru swore to protect and defend this constitution. The constitution clearly says the election must be held on the first Tuesday of August 2017. He is determined to deliver his part of the bargain as the executive, the enabling resources and everything necessary to do it. These others are independent institutions, including the IBC and the rest. They have removed several. In fact, just the other day they were saying now they even want the CEO of the IBC to be sacked. The last time they were talking about the chairman, Shebukati, to be sacked.
No.
What do they want? Which referee do you want? Bring your own referee. We are ready for the game.
Okay. What do you mean by settling things politically out of court?
It's settling politically because we have set up a mechanism to win despite rigging.
What do you mean by settling politically?
But you haven't won.
Listen.
Because you have
But we are winning. That's what I'm telling you, that we will not
should have an election. We should not have an election. If you have won,
but
you have to go for elections.
But I want to say to the record very clear,
roadblocks?
I want to say to the record very clear, Mutegi. Will you rather, when you have grievances, when you have issues with the election process, will you rather use the civil means available, constitutional availed means to tackle with your court?
But you
I'm talking about the many cases we have filed, which Jubilee is complaining about, calling them roadblocks. It is the only civil way of solving disputes, that you go to court, you are heard quietly, and a decision is rendered. If it goes against you, you live with it.
And you've made that point.
It is the civil way of doing things.
Point, but you have
I said that we will not go to court, and I think our candidate has been very clear with this, that we have set up mechanism to win despite rigging.
Okay, let's take a break now. This is Cheche,
and
we're live on Citizen TV, and we are discussing the accusations and counter-accusations between the two main political camps, which are escalating as the August 8th general election draws closer. Tell us what you think, for your opinions and your words for both the two main political camps, Jubilee and NASA. Our SMS number is 22422, and you can reach us on Twitter using the hashtag Cheche.